autistic people instead of trying to fix them? Because I think that's kind of front and center right now, the whole like, we're going to fix autism. We're going to cure autism. Are we?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a curable thing.
For episode number 2 of the Autism Lab, I have with me again my lovely wife, Megan. And let's just start it off with a easy question.
Okay.
Is autism really increasing, or are we just getting better at spotting it?
Better at spotting it 100%.
100%?
I think so, yeah. In my opinion, sorry. It's not statistical.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Why 100%? Like, why are you so confident?
Because back then it wasn't necessarily a spectrum. It was autism, and that's all it was. Now it's a spectrum where somebody with high functioning needs get get diagnosed, because just because they need less help doesn't make it so that they're not struggling.
So there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to be like, it's something in the food supply, or it's the fluoride in the water, or it's all the shots we're getting. You don't think any of that has 1% to 2%, any percentage chance of like increasing the rate of autism?
Maybe the food, the chemicals in the food, but I do believe that a lot of it is genetics. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a big nature over nurture person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You've kind of changed my view on that over the years, because I was naturally more of a nurture person. I was more under the impression like you could change anything in a person.
Mm-hmm.
Until we've spent the last 5 years or so trying to get change out of our daughter and like throwing everything we can at it, and still coming up feeling like nature is just
overwinning, yeah,
gonna do what it's gonna do, and we just have to accept and love her no matter what. But
right, and I wouldn't say change as much as curb bad behaviors that come up.
Yeah.
That's really the only thing. I don't want her to change as a person. I just don't want to have to deal with the behaviors that come along with the outbursts or meltdowns or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I'm with that.
So yeah, I think it's mainly genetic aspects. It wasn't really recognized back then, because back then it was, you're just weird. You're just a strange person that likes to collect coins, or your grandma wants to have a certain time for dinner, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, you're bringing it back to our conversation we had the other day.
Yeah.
Where we were talking about autism was like around back then, but it wasn't identified. Right.
It was just, you're weird, you're quirky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which by the way, guys, my grandpa collected coins, so she's calling my grandpa out specifically, and he was obsessive about these coins.
Keep in mind, I didn't know that until our conversation the other day. I was just doing the stereotypical, what you see off of TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And guess whose grandma was always trying to have dinner at exactly 5 p.m. So.
I didn't know that one either, just to be fair.
Yeah, you just threw it out there.
Yeah.
What do you think of the idea of masking, and like, are we starting to understand masking a little more clearly as a society? I know we are specifically, but...
As a society?
Yeah. Do you think like people are starting to understand masking better, or is it just...
No, I don't think there's a lot of good, unless you're in the loops. I don't think there's a lot of good learning happening to people who are not in those same loops.
Okay, so then let's try and be the light that shines forward and tells the world what masking is then. Would you be able to describe masking in your own words?
Yeah, masking is the trying to cover up whatever uncomfortable feeling, whether that you're trying to hide a sensory need or you're having anxiety about a social situation. It's covering up the way you feel about that to make other people more comfortable.
Yeah, so like right now I'm kind of stimming on this pocket piece here that just feels good to rub, and it's like a tactile stim. But if I were to try and not do that because I didn't want to be perceived as weird, or if like rocking made me feel comfortable, but then I chose not to rock, or humming made me feel comfortable, but I chose not to hum because I want to appear normal in the face of these other people.
Of society.
Society, then that would be masking. And I think that masking also takes a toll on a person.
It does. It is exhausting.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to try and be something you're not. And so it's a lot of pretending to be with the in-group that you're hanging out with, but not actually feeling like you're a part of that group, which is why Maya would come home from school on those days when she went to charter or public school. When she went to public school, and she'd come home just zoinked.
Yeah. She'd absolutely blow up from whatever happened. And at that time, she didn't have the communication to explain what happened. So I'm just like listening to this thing scream at me like I did the worst thing today, but I absolutely had very little interaction with her because she was at school all day. And I couldn't fix it.
I just couldn't get over the fact that you said this thing for Maya, like she's this thing coming at you.
Because she becomes this other person when she is not able to communicate.
Yeah, it's almost like she's not even there.
Yeah.
She's gone. What about the difference of like the terms high functioning and low functioning? Are those terms that do more harm than good? Because like, is that so fair that like oh, well, he's a high functioning autistic. He can still go to work and pay taxes if you're RFK and stuff like that. Whereas these low functioning people, that are going to need support. And like, I mean, we have to have language around it, but I don't know. It seems like there's probably some damage if you're called low functioning and then like you really were able to function. It's just you needed certain criteria.
Yeah, you needed different supports to make it so that you could function highly. I do think that it can be damaging in both aspects, I think, because the people who are high functioning, sometimes they just need a little bit of support, and because the funding is not there, those people don't even get looked at as oh, you're high functioning, you don't need this help, when in all reality you do.
That's interesting. So I was thinking more that low functioning would be the term that would be harmful because...
I think both. You kind of explain the low functioning one.
Yeah, I never thought of that perspective, though. It's a good point that, okay, this kid has high functioning autism, so he doesn't really need help. Like people,
but he does need help.
Totally. Yeah, but people do feel that way sometimes, you know, but he still has autism, and he's still just, his brain works a little different than the rest of them.
Right, and he's still struggling.
Yeah,
whether
big
he
time.
can verbalize that or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Maya was diagnosed, I was really worried that she'd get marked off as like, this actually is normal and very typical, until they started explaining what the levels of autism were. And they leveled her as a level 2, because level 2, you get more supports from the state. A level 1, you get nothing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you don't. If you're diagnosed level 1, you do not get supports, at least for this state.
The state of Arizona.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't get DDD if you're level 1.
Nope.
Which, if you haven't heard of DDD, that's just like the most important insurance that's changed our whole life.
I wouldn't say it's the Department of Disabilities. It's not necessarily an insurance, because they just partner with Access.
Yeah, but I mean, they're the gatekeepers to access.
For this specific, yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't make enough money, you can also get Access. There's just a bunch of different workarounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you make any kind of money,
You're not
like
getting
enough
it.
to pay your bills, barely, then you're not gonna. And that's always the part of the country that gets the rough end of the stick, is those people who can pay their bills barely, but can't get supports because they
Right.
have too much money. And it's the same with that we were talking about with the autism. Like, it's if you're the kid who like can get good grades, oh, you don't need an IEP.
Right.
Yeah, you're fine.
But that's not all it's about. There's a bunch of things that go into being a good student.
Yeah.
There's the grades, there's the communication aspect, there's the physical aspect, there's all of it.
Yeah. Why do you think that more adults are recognizing that they have autism nowadays, and they just totally got missed as kids? You and I on the list, as we're both trying to go through the process. I have a doctor's appointment today to get the referral to talk to a psych to figure it out, and you're already a little farther along. Yeah. Because we recognize ourselves in our daughter quite well.
I think a lot of people probably look back and see, oh, I did that. That was not a typical thing that kids did. And their parents might have just chalked it off as like, oh, that was totally normal. Like, okay, Sure, it was
Sure.
totally normal.
Sure, it was totally normal. Totally normal.
And then I do think there's also this, what's the right word? Stereotype, or not stereotype, that's the wrong word, but like this freedom to be able to speak and explain how you feel instead of like hiding it now. Whereas back then you didn't want to really tell anybody what you felt, because back then they did lobotomies on people who just behaved differently.
Yeah, I'm not trying to stand out and get a brain piece cut out. Thank you.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Don't need that.
Ain't nothing going to keep me in line like threatening to cut my brain open.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, all in the name of science, I guess. Whatever.
Capital S science. So all these adults now are coming out and saying, oh, you know what? I actually do feel this type of way or that type of way. Mm-hmm. Where do they start? Like, you just go to your PCP or?
I mean, that's where I started.
Yeah.
Lots of research. Because, you know, the people who are neurotypical are not going to be researching autism symptoms and taking the, what is it called? The RADS?
Yeah, I think so.
A specific test that tells you if you have symptoms or not of autism. People aren't going out there self-diagnosing themselves if they don't think they have autism.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking into it, it's probably because you have a gut feeling.
Yeah, or if you have a child that has these symptoms and you recognize that you do things like that, then there's probably something a little deeper going on.
So we've been doing a lot of reflection.
Yeah.
On our past.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me like something that you did as a kid that would like scream autism now if it were to be seen?
There's a couple of things. When I was on a field trip one year, we learned about birds at some bird thing where you got to look at birds, and they gave you the Book of Arizona Birds.
Yeah.
And I religiously copied out of that book. Like, my life depended on it. Like, I needed to write this book in my own handwriting over and over.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, I was probably, we were dating around this time. I was probably 13 or 14. And I was really, really obsessed with the mummy movies.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Oh, no, you don't know this part. I never told you this part.
Okay.
So I was so obsessed that I went line by line and hand wrote a script.
Of like the actual mummy
Yes.
movies? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's pretty out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, you got a lot of handwriting practice in.
Yep, that was like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe you just decided now on the internet to drop that, but okay.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good. Oh,
I don't think anybody else knows that. You're welcome, everybody.
yeah, that's good.
Uh-huh.
That's really good.
That's not something neurotypical kids do, I don't think.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't know. I sure wasn't out there trying to write anything at all. I was just avoiding school like the plague as a kid. I always felt like, why do I need to know this? Was always in the back of my head at school.
I see. I was the rule follower. They said do this, we have to do this. Why aren't you doing this? You forgot your homework? She said we needed to turn in our homework. I was that kid.
Do you see how that correlates to Maya? Because she's also the rule follower and
Yep. Mm-hmm. I know. Yeah, I see the relations.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I was the one that's like, didn't you say you were going to collect the homework today? And everybody's like, ugh.
Yeah.
I was that kid.
You were that kid. Yeah, that's the fun thing, right? Is you see these things in your kid and then you realize, oh, that was me too. Mm-hmm. I just never got the support. And now I have X, Y, and Z issue because I never got the support, and maybe I'd be... Anyways.
Yeah.
One thing that I did, and you've known this, was I had bad echolalia.
Yeah.
I would say something, and then I would say something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Maya did that for a long time.
Did I still do that when we started dating?
No.
No, I'd cut it out by then.
Yeah, you're like, I got to impress her.
Yeah, I wanted to get you so bad. I was like, I got to stop doing it. I got to stop doing it. So... yeah, I think I finally figured that out. But I had eating issues. Like, I just would eat like all the junk food, like obsessively.
Well, that's because isn't that really all you had?
I don't know. That was all I ever put in my mouth. That's for sure. One time, me and DJ are in the backyard swimming, and we had an ice cream sandwich eating contest.
That sounds like a good idea.
I think I ate like 18 ice cream sandwiches, and it was eat an ice cream sandwich, swim a lap. Eat an ice cream sandwich, swim a lap.
You know that doesn't work off the calories that you just ate, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't know that it took like so many laps to burn one ice cream sandwich. But anyways, so that was something I did that was very autistic that would get caught nowadays. So anyways, how do social media and online communities help or hurt autistic people today?
Oof. I think they help because there's easier way to reach out to people.
Yeah.
But also they hurt because people are out there judging everything you do.
Yeah, so much judgment.
Yeah, the people who don't understand, the people who don't get it, because they're not in that world. The judgment is harsh.
Yeah, but is it just like a forget the hater situation, or is it like too hard to... I
think it depends on the person and where your mental state is at that moment in time.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, when I think about social media and autism, my first mind goes to TikTok. And TikTok, I think, is really good for, like, I don't know, I just spent some time, like, watching different autistic people talk about their adult life.
Yep.
And going like, oh, yeah.
I do a lot of that too.
Yeah, and it's just like super relatable and super, I don't know, like it's just real, right? Whereas like you could go on Google and like Google the DSM-5 and like read it, but it's different to like hear people's experiences and then just feel like that's also me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that because I've done that too. I'll scroll and be like, somebody will say something, and I'm like, that's an autism thing? Oh, no.
My favorite autism skit to this day is still, they're like sitting on the porch and the kid like does something and they like get up.
The two parents are sitting, they're trying to sit and have a moment together because if you're an autism parent, you know, you don't get very many of those alone time together. You don't. No. And so they're sitting trying to have a moment, and the kid goes off and rips his clothes off and starts just streaking through the front yard. And they're all just like, I'll get him this time.
Set down their beer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Relatable.
The last question is, how can we better support autistic people instead of trying to fix them? Because I think that's kind of front and center right now, the whole like, we're going to fix autism. We're going to cure autism. Are we?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a curable thing. And I'm definitely not going to be the first in line to let them experiment on my brain.
No.
If I was or was not, whatever. I'm not going to sign Maya up. I'm not going to sign anybody up. They're not experimenting on no brains.
Even like less than that, like experimenting on behaviors, experimenting on
because
attention.
If you've seen some of the stuff from the past that they've done is questionable.
It's being generous.
That is very generous.
Yeah. Yeah, the government's done some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
They used to slip drugs to people in bars. The CIA for a while was just dropping drugs and then observing them and seeing what would happen. This wasn't for autism. This was
just in general?
Just to test psychedelics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
There was that whole prison experiment where they like put a group of people in a prison. It was like a fake prison. And they told them, you're the guards, you're the inmates.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that experiment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It does stuff to you. Even if they were all good people, being treated like poorly does something to your brain.
Yeah. And I remember like in BMT also feeling like I was changing as a person.
Oh, you did change as a person.
Yeah. And so it's just, as much as we say like nature is the primary driver.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something in there about nurture because like when I was going through BMT, like I changed as a person. Mm-hmm. Not all for the better, but not all for the worse either. Like I became disciplined and stuff, but yeah. So anyways, how do we help better? I think education is like so big. Yeah.
Like I've seen the posts where they say if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person, and I feel like that's very accurate because it's not a cookie cutter type shape.
No.
It's everything under the sun. That's why it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've met one autistic person, you met one autistic person.
Yeah.
It's a good place to end. All right, guys. See you on podcast 3. Bye.